periodically... Quit laughing!
Sorry.
Understand that many legacy cameras, like old cars and old people, will be crotchety, periodically uncooperative, and will definitely have quirks and well-defined personalities. And, like old people, their personalities derive from the manner in which they were treated. A camera which was treated well, serviced, and maintained will today function more reliably and readily. This video's goal is to help educate potential legacy camera buyers of the pitfalls and rewards of legacy camera purchases and provide you with the tips and knowledge required to reduce the chances of buying a faulty camera. Using a legacy camera provides an entirely different photographic experience than does using a modern or digital camera. They function, sound, and handle differently. Returning a good photo with a legacy camera can be about as rewarding as any photographic experience can get. Your first step in buying a legacy camera is research. Fortunately, thanks to resources like YouTube, Camerapedia, and Wikipedia, researching legacy cameras is easier than ever, and the information available is extremely thorough and complete in reputable sources. Note that not all YouTube videos about cameras should be considered reputable. Neither should Wikipedia. Wikipedia, though, typically maintains a good links list at the end of the article, and those sites can provide great details about the cameras and verify if the facts on Wikipedia were correct. A quick Google Internet search will also help you find good sources of camera information, including a PDF version of many instruction manuals. Before you buy from a physical store, make sure that you know it's a reputable store with trustworthy and reliable staff. Yelp.com is a fantastic resource for this. The Better Business Bureau is a good source, but people are faster to write a Yelp review than a letter to the BBB. Also, ask friends, people you know who know cameras, or a photography teacher. Buying from eBay, Amazon, and other sites can come with added buyer risk. The best thing you can do is mitigate this. Note that the reputable sites all provide buyer protection so that if a sale goes badly, you can at least receive a refund. For eBay especially, only buy from buyers who accept returns without question in the first 2 weeks or longer. You will need that time to make sure your camera works well. Also for eBay, check a seller's past feedback. If it's all positive, or if there's no recent negative or neutral feedback indicating the seller has sold items with inaccurate descriptions, then you've done as much as you can to mitigate your risk. Know that every seller has a bum camera sometimes, and most will take it back if you have an issue. Read the description carefully. Good sellers provide detailed descriptions, and some, like me, also include a video demonstrating the camera's functions. Good sellers know their product and tend to have good photos. And read the seller's auction caveats. Good sellers keep it short and have terms fair to the buyers. There are some key things to avoid when buying from eBay. In addition to sellers with negative feedback indicating they sold flawed material and did not take it back, avoid sellers whose auctions say things like, "I don't know much about cameras. I bought this at an estate sale, garage sale, flea market, boot sale. This is a junk drawer find. This camera is sold as is. No returns," and other similar phrases. If you feel like a seller's terms are written to protect only them, then there may be a good reason to avoid that seller or camera. If the seller's listing terms seem belligerent, snide, or arrogant, that's a red flag. Good online sellers, such as good eBay sellers or shops like Autorama and KEH, are worth their weight in film. Bookmark them. If they sold you your camera or sell other gear, they will likely have something that will fit your system when it comes time to expand. Sellers like return buyers, and some might provide frequent buyers with deals that new buyers won't get. Remember that no substitute exists for knowing the model of camera you want to buy. No better mechanism can be had for preventing a bad purchase than to know your product. Once you actually get your hands on the camera, you'll want to follow this 7-point in-store check. The in-store 7-point check includes inspecting for physical damage, checking the operation, inspecting the focus, rocking the lens on the lens mount, checking the pressure plate, examining the camera's innards, and checking moving parts. Damage is not necessarily a deal breaker. A broken lens mount, broken prism glass, or other major defect will impair function. Scratches, small dents, and paint rubbing will likely have no ramifications in the camera's operation. In fact, some wear can give a camera a lot of character, like this black Pentax K2, which has great brassing that makes it really stand out. This camera was a road warrior and it was used a lot, and the previous owner, by necessity, took good care of it. I also have a Nikon F that has a chip in the back, right where the film back meets the camera. But the camera is still light tight, and this damage doesn't impair the camera at all. But it made the camera a lot cheaper to buy. And I have a Miranda with a huge dent in the front, and when I got it, the rewind crank was bent. It still worked and muted correctly and focused well, and in fact, despite its bruises, it's one of the best performers I own. But these three examples are of older metal mechanical cameras, and the damaged deal breaker rule does not apply equally for modern and plastic cameras. When buying a camera, it's helpful to know beforehand what you want to buy. If not, bring a couple of A76 batteries because they're very common. This will help make sure you can test the camera's functions if it requires batteries to work. A properly working camera has a shutter that actuates at each speed setting and sounds relative to the adjacent speed either half or twice as fast. To test a camera's functionality, you'll want to test each shutter speed. Make sure that the mirror returns, shutter cocks, and other mechanical functions occur as they should and smoothly. Check the camera's light seals and mirror bumper. They should be in good shape and should not be deteriorated. Gummy and broken light seals and bumpers will need replacement to prevent your camera from malfunctioning. Also, look through the viewfinder to check the prism, focusing screen, and light pathway in general to make sure that the glass is intact and that no debris is present. Moving parts should move without force and their movement should be smooth. Sounds of grinding, stuck components, and other issues should be a red flag. Your camera's operation should sound smooth and mechanical. Check the lens infinity focus. When the lens is focused at infinity, is something in the far distance in focus? Likewise, when it is focused at 3 or 10 feet, are objects at 3 or 10 feet in focus? If not, and the camera has no diopter adjustment, then the camera or the lens has a problem. A camera that does not focus correctly should be avoided. Some lenses might focus beyond infinity, especially ultra-long telephoto and ultra-wide-angle lenses. A lens that rocks back and forth indicates either a problem with the lens being loose or the mount. Don't be violent when you rock the lens and the mount. The idea here is to see if the lens seats firmly. If the lens comes with the camera and is loose or rocks on the mount, ask to try another. If the other lens rocks on the mount, then there's an issue with the camera's mount. If the other lens does not rock on the camera's mount, then it's an issue with the lens. Now, a lens that rocks back and forth does not necessarily mean the lens is bad. In fact, one of my sharpest lenses has a bit of wiggle built into it. That said, a loose lens can indicate a problem with the lens or camera and is something to be watched out for and generally avoided. Make sure there are no missing or broken parts. Your research should tell you what the camera's insides look like if you're unsure. If you have a smartphone, you should bring it. You can pull up photos or videos of your camera and compare the one you are looking at to examples on the internet if you're uncertain. Also, take a few shots to make sure everything works. Keep your finger away from the shutter curtains when you do so because you don't want to risk jamming the shutter and having to buy a now broken camera for full price. The pressure plate should be dull with minimal signs of wear. The pressure plate keeps the film flat on plane, but it also absorbs excess light that passes through the film. A worn pressure plate will absorb less of the light coming through the film, allowing light to bounce back into the film. This results in the image losing contrast. It's always a good idea to bring a roll of dead film with you. If you don't have one, you can pick up expired and unexposed film on eBay for a couple of bucks. The old Seattle Filmworks and PhotoWorks films are great for this, as most labs will not develop them. With your dead film, run a few shots through the camera with the back open and closed. Heavily or mistreated cameras may not advance film properly or may skip sprocket holes if they're in poor condition. One thing you can do to help is with a Sharpie, with the film loaded, mark the location of the shutter on the back of the film, advance the film, and make sure that it advances past the other end of the shutter opening. As I said before, bring batteries for your camera that you want to buy, but you may not be able to gauge the light meter's accuracy. So if you have a smartphone, you should download a light meter application. Some of the light meter applications are better than others, so it's worth downloading a few and seeing which ones work the best on your phone. As a general test for an application, take a reading on an object in full sun with the ISO set to 100 and the aperture set to 16. The shutter speed should be approximately 1/100th of a second. When you're in the store, the smartphone light meter app can give you an idea of whether or not the camera's light meter is accurate. Note that many old cameras have meters that may not turn on inside of a store due to lower light levels, so you may want to take the camera out front, if the store owner will let you, to test the light meter. The light meter on your camera is not likely to match the light meter on your smartphone exactly. So if it's within about a stop or a stop and a half, it's probably in pretty good shape. If your camera uses the old mercury cell batteries that look like this, mercury, very hazardous, you want to get an adapter that looks like this. You can pick these up for about $4 or $5 off eBay, and they convert an A76 battery, which has the same voltage as the old mercury cell batteries, into a battery that easily slides into the mercury cell holder. After you've bought your new camera, you'll want to test it for proper function. Do this and make sure you get your film back during the return period. Some issues with cameras can't be detected during an in-store check. This test requires one 24 exposure roll of film. Black and white works best because it focuses a bit more sharply than color, but color is fine if that's all you have. For these tests, it will help to have a tripod. It will also help to have a willing and stationary subject for your test photos, such as a person, car, statue, or so forth. Pets and kids are bad subjects for these tests because they move quickly and unpredictably. For this test, you will need a brick wall, ideally, or a slat-type fence. Place your camera no closer than 6 feet and no further than 8 feet from the wall. Make sure that the film plane is as close to parallel with the wall as possible. Also make sure that the camera is level. The vertical plane of the wall should meet the horizontal axis of the lens at 90 degrees. The lens horizontal axis will meet the film at 90 degrees in most types of cameras. Take a meter reading and make sure your settings are correct. Focus on the wall. Take 2 photos for this test, one with the lens at the largest aperture and one with the lens stopped down 3 stops. In both cases, adjust the shutter speed so that you have a consistent exposure. When you get your results back, what you're looking for with this test is that the wall is in focus and properly exposed. Also make sure, though this would be highly unexpected, that the photo doesn't exhibit odd out-of-focus patches. The corners of the image that was taken with the lens wide open should be softer than the corners of the image that was taken with the lens stopped down. That's to be expected. When you look at your images, the wall should be free of distortion. The vertical line should be vertical and the horizontal lines horizontal. Ideally, this should be the case across the whole frame. Here's an added tip. For a test shot that will help you get to know your camera's operation a little bit better, bring some sidewalk chalk and Using references in the viewfinder, draw a box on the wall with chalk that rests as close as possible to the perimeter of what you see in the viewfinder. When your photos come back, the box you draw will be slightly inside the photo and will tell you how much of the image your viewfinder crops out. This will end up being surprisingly useful to know. This test benefits from a friend. If not a friend, then a statue. If not a statue, then something like a basketball or a stuffed animal will also work. You need someone or something that will be stationary and have a logical focal point that you will remember focusing on later. And again, you'll really want to use a tripod on this to help ensure that the focal point is consistent throughout each image and not affected by your own body movement. With the lens wide open, or stopped down no more than one stop, focus on your friend's dominant, which would be the closer eye. The same applies for a statue or stuffed animal. If you use a basketball or something like that, then focus on the first letter of the logo. You want to make sure that you don't stop down much or any for the focusing. Stopping down increases depth of field and will render this test useless. This test seeks to ascertain if the lens focuses properly when it is its narrowest depth of field. If you have two lenses, it is ideal to test it with both. This will help ascertain if any missed focused issues relate to the lens or to the camera. When you get your images back, verify that your images exhibit focus in the proper place. If you focused on your friend's eyes in the taking, but their ears are in focus in the print, then there's an issue. If you focused on the logo of the basketball, but the space in front of it is in focus, then there's an issue. If the test returns the same results for both lenses, then the issue is with the camera. If it returns faulty results for only one lens, then the issue is with the lens. Find a scene that's more than 60 feet away. Approximately, infinity focus is actually 200 times the lens focal length. For this, a visible landmark such as a building, bridge or overpass, antenna, or other easily recognized and large object works the best. Using a tripod to prevent misfocus issues, focus the lens at a fixed point on the subject, such as the spire on a building or a sign on an overpass. It is key to this test that you not use clouds, stars, or the sun for this. As an aside, you should never point your camera at the sun. It's rather like pointing a magnifying glass at the sun and then your eye. Take the photo with your lens wide open. This will help ensure that focus is accurate. When your results come back, you want to make sure that the point you focused on is in focus and that the image is generally sharp. So far, you'll have taken 2 photos of the brick wall, 2 or 4 photos of a friend or a statue, and 1 photo of an infinity subject. This is about 5 or 7 total photos. For this test, you want to check your shutter's consistency. This test will take at least 6 to 9 more images. For this test, take some photos of the sky, not the sun. You'll want to take 3 photos of the sky at each shutter speed that you can with your lens in the given light conditions. On a sunny day, this should be about 9, maybe 12 photos if you're using ISO 100 film. Set your shutter to the fastest setting you can attain at the given lighting and adjust the aperture appropriately. Now take 3 shots. Cut your shutter speed in half. Adjust the shutter setting up 1 full stop and repeat. Do this again a 3rd time and the 4th time. If you want to dedicate this roll of film to camera testing, then keep going in this manner until you run out of film. When you get your results back, you'll be looking at all of these blank shots in each sequence to have the same uniform gradation. If some of the shots taken at the same settings are darker or lighter than the ones next to them, that indicates that the shutter is not firing at the same speed each time. Remember that a photo taken at 1/1000th of a second at f5.6 should look about the same as a photo taken at 1/500th at f8. And make sure to do this on a day with no clouds, where you have an even blue sky to photograph, because it will give you the most consistent results when you look at the film that comes back from the developing lab. For those of you still here, I have some bonus tips for you. This is going to say, let me know, it's okay. A splash screen that says mechanical SLRs. Understand that old light meters lose accuracy over time. Light meters work because there's a chemical reaction in them, and as those chemicals react, they are expended and lose sensitivity. So old light meters might be off, and there might not be a remedy for that. Sure, you can compensate by adjusting your ISO, but that can get old really fast. You also want to know your lens mount and know what lenses are available. Nikon F cameras won't take a Pentax K lens and vice versa. So if you have a specific type of photography you want to do, and you know that you need a certain kind of lens for it, make sure that you buy a camera that will have an equivalent lens available for you. If you don't have any lenses when you buy your camera, simply pick up a 50mm lens with your camera, and that will get you through most of your photographic situations. They're very versatile and typically very fast and very inexpensive. You'll also want to get a strap suitable for carrying the weight. This Nikon F, for instance, is an extremely heavy camera, and being on a thin strap around your neck, it's going to get very old and cut into your neck very quickly. Old mechanical cameras are significantly heavier than the cheaper, lighter weight plastic cameras of the 90s and 2000s. For a standard SLR like the Nikon F, or any of the others in that age, a strap of 1 inch or thicker is ideal. For a medium format camera, you'll want to go with a 2-inch strap. Electronic SLRs, like this one, are much more complex than their previous older mechanical counterparts. They have electronics in them which can fail, and buying an electronic SLR like this can actually result, even though it's a newer camera, in a more unreliable camera. As LCD screens age, they can crack, become fuzzy, or even leak some of the LCD goo into the screen. If any of those conditions are true with an LCD screen, you should avoid that camera. That means it's been stored improperly. It also means that the LCD screen is going to stop working sooner or later. With a camera that has a motor drive, the motor drive should sound good. So make sure that you can get a battery for it. If you're looking at a camera that of the newer vintage, the batteries are a little bit more expensive, but you'll want to pick one up and test it out if the camera shop doesn't have one. So the motor drive, the autofocus should be smooth, and the motor drive and shutter should sound good. TLRs have typically been taken care of, especially Raleighs and Zeiss TLRs. They're very high-end, and the people who buy them tend to baby them. Even other TLRs, such as the Seagull, are often taken care of very, very well. The sort of person who's attracted to buying a TLR is typically the sort of person who's attracted to caring for a possession. All that said, you still want to check the functions. If the TLR needs to have a roll of film in it to function correctly, then you should either bring a dead roll of 120 or bring some 120 paper backing on a spool with a spare spool, and that will probably give you enough tension in the mechanisms to know that everything's working the way it should. When evaluating a TLR, you want to make sure that the back opens and closes easily. If there's a magnifying flip up, you want to make sure that it flips up easily and back into place. Back, there we go, just like that. Looking through the viewfinder, you want to make sure that the focus is accurate and looks good, and that the viewfinder is bright. Point and shoots, honestly, be ready to catch this. Point and shoots, honestly, why? They take subpar photos. They're built very poorly. They don't last very long. These were the iPhones of their days, and they were meant to be used for a little while and pitched. There are very, very few point and shoots that take high quality photos. So the best thing you can do with these is just throw them away. Good catch. For lenses, check the leaf shutters like you would a TLR. You also need to check the bellows on the camera for light leaks. This can be done by covering one end and looking through the other, trying your best to keep light from getting in and around your head. Ideally, you could do this in a dark room with a flashlight. Check the standards movement and how well they do or don't move. Standards should move freely and lock into place easily. They should also not slide out of the position you set them in. Try mounting the large format camera on a tripod to make sure that it mounts. Not all mount without adapter plates, and not all have the smaller tripod size. For box cameras, check that the cardboard is not warped. Also, look through the red window to see if it has a partially exposed roll of film. Jackpot! If so, finish off the roll of film. If not, or once the film is finished, open it up and check to see if it has film spools, which are useful for respooling modern films into your box camera. Check the shutter's operation, though typically these only fail if they've rusted shut. Understand that box cameras function in a highly variable manner and should be for fun or decoration. I have taken some nice shots with box cameras, and they can still take good shots, but they are, by today's standards, of limited flexibility. For folding cameras, check the bellows for light leaks in the same way as described for large format, except here by opening the back of the camera. Check folding cameras covers for operation and smoothness. Ensure that the bellows are supple and not crackly or stiff. Check the shutter operation. Check for film spools or old film. And check the leather or leatherette for wear, dryness, or signs of re-gluing. So thank you for watching this video demonstrating how to evaluate a legacy camera, how to do some at-home film testing, and also providing some tips that will help you with specific types of camera purchases. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. If you'd like to be notified when I have more camera videos that I release, please subscribe. If you have any thoughts or ideas, you can also leave those in comments, and I'm pretty good about responding to questions and comments in a timely manner. If you have suggestions for future videos, in fact, this video that you've just watched came from multiple requests and suggestions for videos. One last thing. Thank you guys for watching. Ah, bug. There you go. Be happy you're on the ground, bug. Okay. Understand that many legacy cameras, like old cars. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I'm here all night.
Clap to start.
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. Understand that plane.
We are in a city.
I should have read this script after I wrote it at least once. This video's goal is to help potential legacy camera buyers understand what they're buying and make an informed oh my gosh.
I was going to say.
This, I was really worried. Like, I'm not going to have any outtakes without for us here to play out all the scripted outtakes we did, and now I've got no worries. A bug crapped on one of my cameras. A bug or a small bird or something. Now it's all over my fingers.
You want to stop and wash?
No, that's fine. It's tiny. I can't smell. I can smell it. I can smell it. I won't lie. Once you actually get your hands on a camera, you're going to want to perform this in-store 7-point check.
Should the salesman be in a banana costume?
I would buy anything from somebody in a banana costume. Are you kidding me?
You should be wearing a banana costume.
I think I might just go with a tie.